My father-in-law's entire family was dying from pufferfish poisoning, and the only antidote was made by my wife's company. I called her. It wasn't until the 99th try that she finally picked up. I'm at Leo's company gala, Nate. We danced one cha-cha. Do you have to be so obsessive? I told her that her parents and her brother's family had been poisoned. I begged her to come back with the antidote to save them. But by the time my wife's family took their last breaths, they had seen neither her nor the medicine. It turned out she'd given the antidote to the family of her first love, who had also been poisoned, his parents and his younger brother. It's my property. I'll do what I want with it, she'd said. If your family died, that's just their bad luck. Why were they even eating with Leo's family? She felt no guilt. Instead, she used her legal standing as my wife to sign a waiver on my behalf, absolving her ex-boyfriend's parents of any responsibility for killing her entire family. When I, seething with rage, told her I wanted a divorce, she just scoffed. So your whole family is dead. Is it really that big a deal? She said. Besides, if your parents and your brother weren't so greedy, they never would have gotten poisoned in the first place. You want to divorce me over a bunch of dead people? Are you even human? Seeing her so brazen, so completely unmoved, I realized she still didn't know. The ones who died were her family. My in-laws had been rushed to the hospital after eating pufferfish at a restaurant. By the time I arrived, they were on the brink of death. The doctor told me the only thing that could save them was a proprietary antitoxin manufactured by my wife, Ava's company. I started calling Ava immediately, but she wouldn't answer. It took 99 calls before she picked up. Before I could even speak, she laid into me, her voice dripping with annoyance. I'm at Leo's company gala. We danced one cha-cha. Do you have to be so obsessive? Hearing her mention Leo Vance made my jaw clench. My first instinct was to demand an explanation, but the thought of my in-laws fighting for their lives in the ER forced the words back down my throat. I swallowed my anger and focused on what mattered. My voice trembled. Your parents and your brother's family were poisoned by pufferfish. It's bad, Ava. The doctor said only your company's antitoxin can save them. You have to bring it back right now. Before I could finish, Ava cut me off with a cold laugh. Your whole family gets food poisoning, and you expect me to just hand over the antitoxin? Do you have any idea how much that stuff costs? She said, her tone utterly detached. I'm a businesswoman, Nate, not a charity. When they've scraped together the money, you can call me back. As if afraid I'd keep arguing, she hung up. The dial tone buzzed in my ear. I stood there for a long moment, stunned. I couldn't believe those cruel, heartless words had come from Ava. My phone buzzed again. A text message. It was from the luxury watch boutique, asking if I was satisfied with the quality of my custom order. The watch had been a birthday gift from my parents, but I'd been so busy I hadn't had time to pick it up. Ava must have gone and gotten it behind my back. Then she'd used my watch to impress Leo Vance. It wasn't the first time she'd done something like this. Whenever I confronted her about it, she would mock me. Look at you, Nate. Do you really think a watch that expensive suits you anymore? It looks much better on Leo. He has the class to pull it off. She was so generous with Leo. A $15,000 custom watch, given away without a second thought. But for the medicine that could save 5 lives, she had to nickel and dime me. I was furious. I called her again, but her phone went straight to voicemail. It was off. A minute later, I was scrolling through my phone and saw her Instagram post from half an hour ago, gifting a custom watch to the one I love and dancing the cha-cha with him. My heart could just explode with happiness. The picture showed Leo, wearing my watch, dancing with Ava. I was shaking with rage. Just as I felt my head was about to explode, Leo's own Instagram updated. Because of you, my family is safe. I'll love you for 1,000,000 years. The accompanying photo was of him holding up the vials of antitoxin and kissing Ava on the cheek. I wanted to tear her apart. Her own family was dying, waiting for that medicine, and she didn't care. She was too busy playing the hero for Leo's family. Just then, the door to the emergency room opened. The doctor walked out, his expression grim. I'm sorry, he said. We did everything we could. The tears came instantly. I had braced myself for it, but hearing the words still felt like a punch to the gut. 5 lives just gone. I wiped my eyes and called the boutique. I never authorized anyone to pick up my watch, I said. I think you've been scammed. You should probably call the police. With 5 fatalities, the police were under immense pressure. It didn't take them long to identify the owner of the restaurant. It was none other than Leo Vance's parents. For a moment, I didn't know how to feel. My grief was so profound, yet I felt like a clown. Ava had saved the very people who had killed her own family. A cold smile touched my lips. I hoped Ava wouldn't live to regret her decision. An officer explained the situation to me, looking troubled. Because the restaurant owners were also in the hospital recovering, they couldn't be brought in for questioning yet. I remained stone-faced. I'm aware the owners were also poisoned, I said. But they've already been treated. Officer, I will be pressing charges. I expect the next time I see them to be in a courtroom. My tone was absolute, my expression icy. The officer, though curious as to how I knew they had recovered, saw my demeanor and didn't ask. He just nodded firmly. Rest assured, Mr. Caldwell, a case involving 5 deaths is something we will investigate thoroughly. We will get justice for the victims. After finishing the official statements, I collapsed onto a chair, feeling completely drained. That's when Ava called. The second I answered, she launched into a tirade, not even giving me a chance to speak. You had the boutique call the cops on me. Nathan Caldwell, are you insane? I'm your wife. How dare you accuse me of fraud? Because my father paid for that watch. Ava, let me ask you something. Where's the birthday present my parents got for me? There was silence on her end. After a long pause, her voice returned, much softer. We're married, Nate. What's yours is mine, isn't it? Leo has wanted a custom watch for ages to reward himself. It was such a small wish, how could I not grant it? You have no idea how happy he was when he got it. He's much more generous than you are, you know, she continued. He even told me to thank you on his behalf. Honestly, just look at the difference in character between you two. She rambled on, her voice grating on my nerves until I couldn't take it anymore. Shut up, I roared. The shout stunned Ava into silence. After a moment, she spoke again, her voice filled with disbelief and hurt. Nathan, did you just tell me to shut up? Ava had fought her way up from nothing, and to protect her pride, I had always been gentle with her. I'd never raised my voice to her, but today, after she had chosen Leo over her own family's lives, I had no more room to back down. You feed a stray dog, and it will at least bark in gratitude. She was worse than a dog. Enough of this, I said coldly. The whole family is in the hospital morgue. You need to come back and handle their arrangements. Ava's response made me feel that comparing her to a dog was an insult to dogs. If your family's dead, they're dead. What arrangements need to be made? My company's antitoxin still needs refinement. It would be a great opportunity for them to contribute to the company's progress after death. Leo had a scare today, and I need to comfort him. I don't have time for this. Just remember to have the bodies sent to my company. She hung up before I could reply. It was only then that I fully understood. Ava still had no idea it was her family that was dead. I thought about it for a long time. Then I decided to honor her wishes. I would send her family's bodies to her company to shine one last time. Given that it was a case involving 5 deaths, filing the lawsuit was straightforward. That afternoon, Ava stormed into our home and slapped me across the face. Nathan Caldwell, when did you become so vicious? She screamed. Leo's parents just barely escaped with their lives, and you're suing them? Are you trying to push them over the edge? I held my stinging cheek, my voice flat. The only reason they escaped with their lives is because of your antitoxin, isn't it? Ava's face froze. A flicker of guilt crossed her features, but she quickly covered it with defiance. It's my property. I'll do what I want with it. If your family died, that's just their bad luck. Who told them to get poisoned at the same time as Leo's family? Her voice grew more self-righteous with every word. Leo's parents are good people. It's not like they intentionally killed your family. Can't you be more magnanimous? You're blowing this little thing way out of proportion. Even if you sue them and they go to jail, so what? It won't bring your family back. When she saw my expression remained unchanged, her tone softened, shifting into a placating, wheedling cadence. I know you're having trouble accepting their deaths, but you can't bring them back. The living have to move on. I already talked it over with Leo. We'll give you $1 million in compensation. Drop the lawsuit, and we'll just put this all behind us. Ava spoke so casually, as if $1 million could simply erase 5 deaths. I suddenly wondered how she would feel if she knew it was her family that was gone. Seeing my silence, her face hardened again. You'll agree whether you like it or not. I'm telling you right now, I've already signed a legal waiver on your behalf as your wife. With my help, even if you don't drop the suit, I can make sure Leo's parents are protected. And you won't even get the $1 million. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. I looked at her, my voice laced with ice. Since you're so determined to protect the people who murdered our family, there's nothing more to say. I just hope you don't regret this later. Regret what? Since you've agreed, I'll call Leo back right now. Ava seemed surprised by how easily I'd given in, but she was too eager to question it. She immediately dialed Leo's number. On the phone, Leo's voice was slick with false sincerity. Ava, please tell Nathan I'm so sorry for his loss. I never expected such a terrible tragedy to happen. I knew perfectly well Leo couldn't produce $1 million. Ava would be the one to cover it. He would probably contribute $100,000 at most. Sure enough, after Ava hung up, she went to the bathroom. Not 2 minutes after she came out, $1 million was transferred to my account. I saw the bank notification and smiled knowingly. Then, I slowly pulled out the divorce papers I prepared. Sign it. I can't stay married to an accomplice in my family's murder. Ava froze, then snatched the papers from my hand, about to tear them to shreds. I crossed my arms, my voice calm. If you dare to rip that up, I will transfer the $1 million back to Leo right now, and our agreement is off. Her hand stopped. Her eyes widened, as if she were seeing a stranger. You're threatening me? Nathan Caldwell, you're actually threatening me. She lost her composure completely. So your whole family is dead. Is it really that big of a deal? Besides, if your parents and your brother weren't so greedy, they never would have gotten poisoned in the first place. You want to divorce me over a bunch of dead people? Are you even human? I raised an eyebrow, perfectly composed. Cut the crap. Are you going to sign it or not? Your choice. Her expression was a kaleidoscope of emotions. White, then red, then black. We stood in a standoff for a long time before she finally gritted out, I'll sign. She scanned the document, her anger palpable as she signed her name, the pen nearly tearing through the paper. After signing, she threw the pen down. $1 million for 5 lives, she sneered. You sold your family cheap. I pressed my lips together, but didn't argue. The fool. She still hadn't noticed anything was wrong. She still didn't know it was her family that was dead. Ava, I said, since the divorce isn't final yet, we're still husband and wife. Let's go see Mom, Dad, and my brother's family off one last time. After all, I did what you asked. I sent them to your company to continue making a contribution. Ava was reluctant at first, but after hearing that, she gave a grudging nod. We went to her company's laboratory. 5 bodies lay on tables, covered by white sheets. Ava's expression was distant calm. My own feelings were a tangled mess of grief and a sharp, satisfying sting of revenge. Dad, Mom, my brother, my sister-in-law, JJ. I began, my voice thick with emotion. Ava's finally back. JJ was the nickname of Ava's beloved nephew. At the mention of his name, her calm facade shattered. A tidal wave of shock washed over her. Her legs gave out from under her, and she collapsed to the floor as if struck, her eyes wide with a horror so profound it seemed to draw blood to the surface. She refused to believe that the bodies lying there belonged to her family. You're lying, she shrieked, pointing a trembling finger at me, her eyes burning with a murderous rage. I watched silently as she struggled to her feet, only to fall again. She staggered toward the bodies, each step a monumental effort. When she finally reached them and ripped back the first white sheet, a guttural, animalistic scream tore from her throat. She moved frantically from body to body, tearing away each sheet in a desperate, horrifying ballet. The brutal reality sent her stumbling backward, the color draining from her face until it was whiter than the sheets themselves. How is this possible? It was your family that was poisoned. She lunged at me, her hands gripping my arms like vices, shaking me back and forth in a complete breakdown. Nathan, why didn't you tell me it was my parents? If I had known it was them, I would have come back with the antitoxin. I would have. This is fake. It has to be fake. I broke free from her grasp. You were too busy dancing the cha-cha with Leo Vance to care about anyone's life, I said coldly. You wouldn't even let me finish a sentence. And when I tried to call you again, you turned your phone off. The memory of our phone call made her tremble, her head shaking in denial. I thought it was your family, she stammered. A chill ran through my bones. So if it was my family, their lives didn't matter? I'm not as heartless as you, Ava, I said. Even after you turned off your phone, I didn't give up. I sent you a text. If you had just seen it in time, you could have saved your parents and your brother's family. A text? What text? I never got one. Desperate to prove her point, she fumbled for her phone, her fingers shaking as she opened her messages. The inbox was empty. You are lying, she screamed, her face contorted with madness. You did this on purpose. You wanted my whole family to die. She threw herself at me like a wild animal, her hands closing around my neck, squeezing with all her might. The air in my lungs vanished. The feeling of suffocation was terrifying. A couple of lab technicians saw what was happening and rushed over to pull her off me. Ms. Sinclair, please calm down. Her eyes were wild. Calm down? My entire family is dead. How can I be calm? I shoved her away and looked at her, completely broken. I took out my own phone and opened my sent messages. Ava, you need to come back now. It's your parents and your brother's family who were poisoned. Bring the antitoxin and save them. The message was there, time-stamped and marked as successfully delivered. I knew Ava's personality all too well. That's why I'd sent the text even after she turned off her phone. I refused to be the villain she would inevitably paint me as. As for why the message wasn't on her phone, I had a pretty good idea who was behind that. Ava stared at my phone screen. Every word became a razor blade, twisting in her chest, causing an agony beyond comprehension. Seeing her fall apart, I felt no sympathy. My voice was devoid of emotion. It's your property. You'll do what you want with it. Your family died. That's just their bad luck. Who told them to get poisoned at the same time as Leo's family? You already signed the waiver, so it's all in the past. $1 million for 5 lives. You sold your family cheap. The boomerangs Ava had thrown were now coming back and hitting her right between the eyes. Her body convulsed, and a spray of blood erupted from her lips. Overwhelmed by grief, Ava collapsed, unconscious. The technicians rushed her to the hospital. I bowed to Ava's family, then followed them there. It wasn't because I cared about her, but for now I was still her husband. When Ava woke up, she wanted to arrange funerals for her family. I agreed that the dead should be laid to rest as soon as possible, but what I said was, your family's dead, so they're dead. What arrangements need to be made? Your company's antitoxin still needs refinement. This is a great opportunity for them to contribute to the company's progress after death. Ava was so shattered that she didn't even remember saying those exact words to me just a short time ago. She erupted in fury. Nathan, how can you be so cruel? My parents are dead, and you won't even let them rest in peace. I raised an eyebrow. Ava, aren't those your words? What? Did you cough up your memory along with the blood? Her lips trembled, unable to form a response. She coughed up another mouthful of blood and nearly passed out again. After a long moment, she finally spoke, her voice so weak it sounded like it could be carried away by the wind. Nathan, are you trying to drive me to my grave? You hate me, don't you? That's why you purposely sent my family's bodies to the company. You want me to live with this regret for the rest of my life. Her emotions were spiraling out of control. She kept spitting up blood as if trying to empty her body of it. Even now, she was trying to shift the blame onto me. I wasn't about to carry that burden. Ava, your parents and your brother's family were poisoned. The doctor called you, but you were too busy dancing with your first love to answer. He had no choice but to call me. He told me your company's antitoxin could save them. I didn't waste a second. I called you 99 times before you finally picked up, only for you to yell at me for interrupting your time with Leo. I wanted to sue the people responsible, but you, their own daughter and sister, signed a waiver on my behalf. You would rather let them die without justice just to protect the parents of your ex-boyfriend. The crowd of onlookers in the hallway, who had been listening in, gasped. They stared at Ava, unable to believe such a monster could exist. She signed a waiver for the people who killed her family? Is she even human? Better to give birth to a brick. The insults made Ava shrink, but they also seemed to bring a sliver of clarity back to her. She picked up her phone and dialed Leo. His voice came through, smooth as silk. Ava, are you worried about my family? Do you want to come stay with me at the hospital tonight? At the mention of his family, Ava's face darkened with rage. Her voice was a low, gravelly rasp. The text message Nathan sent me. You deleted it, didn't you? You must have known it was my family that was poisoned. Why did you lie and tell me it was Nathan's? Were you afraid that if I saw the text, I'd bring the antitoxin to save my family and delay saving yours? You knew the truth, and you still let me sign that waiver. You still let me pay your compensation. Are you even human? Her voice rose with each question, culminating in a raw, broken sob. On top of the grief of losing her family, the betrayal from the man she loved was clearly more than she could bear. Leo's response was calm. After her tirade, he paused for only a moment before answering, his voice steady. Ava, you've really misunderstood me. I didn't delete any text, and I had no idea it was your family. Don't you remember? You're the one who told me it was Nathan's family. You were cursing them out, calling them snobs who always looked down on you, saying they deserved it. Now, it turns out there was a mistake, but what's done is done. You have my condolences. With the waiver signed and the money in the bank, Leo was full of confidence. A confidence that Ava herself had given him. I watched her tremble with fury, clearly regretting everything. But there are no second chances in life. After his self-righteous speech, Leo hung up without another word. Ava stared at her phone, motionless. A long time passed. Then, she opened her mouth and let out a primal scream. Ah! Pain, despair, a soul tearing itself apart. I watched her, unmoved, until the sound became unbearable. Stop screaming, I said. If you have the energy for that, you'd be better off saving it to plan your parents' funerals. I couldn't bear the thought of them not having peace, even in death. After her family was cremated and buried, Ava knelt at their graves. Mom, Dad, my brother, my sister-in-law. JJ, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm an animal. She slammed her forehead against the hard ground, over and over, until her skin broke and the earth was smeared with blood. I looked at the woman, a wreck of regret and self-loathing, and felt nothing. In the end, this was all her own doing. If she hadn't been so obsessed with her first love, this tragedy never would have happened. But it was her sin, paid for with the lives of 5 family members. Lives that were vibrant yesterday were now just dust. Alongside the grim reality, I felt a faint, lingering ache in my heart. Ava remained kneeling before the graves, refusing to leave, crying until she passed out several times. I collected my emotions and walked away, leaving her alone in the desolate cemetery. Whether she did something foolish was no longer my concern. When I got home, I packed a bag and moved out. After everything that had happened, I couldn't stand to be under the same roof with her for another second. I gave her 3 days to process things. 3 days later, I went to find her to finalize the divorce. In just that short time, Ava had lost a significant amount of weight. She looked haggard and older, and she reeked of alcohol. The glamorous, polished woman was gone. When I told her why I was there, to go to the courthouse and file the papers, her already pale face went chalk white. Her lips trembled. Can we? Not. They're all gone. You can't leave. Me too. She sounded as if she hadn't eaten in days, the words coming out in broken fragments. I said nothing, just looked her directly in the eyes, and shook my head, my decision firm. Seeing my resolve, she covered her face and began to sob, tears streaming through her fingers. I felt no pity. Let's go, I said. Normally, she would have argued, fought, and dragged things out for as long as possible. I had braced myself for a long battle. But to my surprise, she just quietly followed me out the door. The drive to the courthouse was silent. We had once been madly in love, fighting against all odds to be together. Who could have imagined it would end like this? I had truly loved Ava. I was not a man who tolerated deceit, yet I had repeatedly made concessions for her and Leo. It was all because I loved her, because I was reluctant to let go. When the clerk asked her if she was certain she wanted a divorce, Ava was silent for a long time before she nodded, her voice choked with a sob. The movement was slow and weak, as if it took every last bit of energy she had. The light that had once been in her eyes was completely gone. As we walked out of the courthouse, she managed a painful smile. Nate, please don't block my number. Please, just leave me something to hold on to. In this whole world, you're the only family I have left. Her eyes were wet. She sniffled hard, fighting back tears, her gaze pleading. The brutal blow of losing her entire family had left her exceptionally fragile. Rejecting her in that moment felt cruel, but I did it anyway. I don't think so, Ava. You never treated me like family before. There's no need to start now. Someday, I'll find a woman who truly loves me, and you'll reconnect with the one you love. It's better to make a clean break, so no one gets hurt later. Her body trembled, her eyelashes fluttering as a tear rolled down her cheek. You'll remarry. Of course, I said without hesitation. I'm still young. I'm not going to let one failed marriage make me afraid of trying again. The color drained from her face, and the tears fell faster. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Ava had married me, but she had never gotten over Leo. The moment he came back in her life, her heart began to drift, and she hurt me again and again. I had lost count of the sleepless nights I'd spent, my love for her dying a slow, painful death in the darkness. It was a process like being flayed alive. The damage was done. An apology now was meaningless. I'm not going to say it's okay, I told her, because I have no intention of forgiving you. She still didn't understand that a simple sorry could never fix the hurt she had caused. She forced a strained smile. I know. I'm not expecting you to forgive me. Tears blurred her vision, and she couldn't continue. Her smile was as stiff as a mask. I have to go, I said. She wiped a tear from the corner of her eye and nodded. Okay. I turned and walked south. She turned and walked north. 2 figures, parting ways, each returning to where they began. Or perhaps we were never meant to walk the same path at all. Forcing it had only led to this heartbreaking end. I thought the next time I'd see Ava would be on the day our divorce was legally finalized. But we met again in just 1 week. She was suing Leo Vance's parents, and I had been called in as a witness. Ava was even thinner. The dress that once fit her perfectly now hung loosely on her frame. When she saw me, she looked timid and full of apology. Nate, I'm sorry. I really didn't want to bother you, but you know more about what happened to my family than anyone. I had to ask you to testify. I didn't mind the trouble if it meant getting justice for her family. I'm glad you decided to fight for them, I said coolly. Leo's expression was ugly. He glared at me, his eyes filled with a wolfish animosity. I knew it was you, you bastard. You turned Ava against me. She loves me too much to ever want to see me unhappy. She already signed the waiver, and I sent you the money. It was all over. Why are you suing my parents? It was no wonder he and Ava had gotten along so well. They even sounded the same, as if $1 million could buy absolution for 5 deaths. After chewing me out, he turned to Ava, his face a mask of gentleness. Ava, I know my parents were wrong, but it wasn't intentional. They wouldn't have gotten sick themselves if it was. I'm begging you, for my sake, please let them go. But the people Ava now hated most in the world were the Van Cess. No, it doesn't matter if it was intentional or not. They killed my family, and they have to pay the price. I can't let the people responsible get away with it. My family deserves to rest in peace. I gave the police a full account of what happened, confirming that Ava had signed the waiver without knowing the true victims. When the officers heard she thought it was my family and had signed it so readily, their expressions were a mixture of pity and contempt. If not for their professionalism, they probably would have muttered, "You reap what you sow." I also voluntarily provided the record of the $1 million transfer. It was then that I learned Ava had contributed $990,000 of it herself. A cynical smile played on my lips. Then, on the spot, I filed a report with the police to reclaim all the assets Ava had spent on Leo during our marriage. Leo was dumbfounded. He never saw it coming. Ava, however, was energized, readily cooperating and listing every expense. We hadn't tallied it up before, but the final sum was shocking. For $1,800,000. I had almost been cheated out of my half, $2,400,000. Because Ava had signed the waiver under false pretenses, it was nullified. She pressed forward with a lawsuit. Leo's parents were sentenced to 10 years in prison. Leo himself was convicted of fraud and sentenced to 6 months, and was ordered to repay the $4.8 million. He had already spent all the money, so his only option was to use his house as collateral. Ava was surprisingly generous. She didn't want the house and gave it all to me. I paused for a moment, then accepted. I considered it payment for my testimony. As Leo was being led away, Ava asked him one last time if he had deleted the text message. This time, he didn't deny it. Her eyes red with fury. She demanded to know why. If he hadn't deleted it, she could have gotten 2 doses of the antidote and saved everyone. Leo sneered. I didn't know they would die without it. My only intention was to make you see what a useless man Nathan is, unable to even take care of your own family. A chill went down my spine. A simple act of jealous rivalry had cost 5 people their lives. I didn't keep Leo's house. I sold it and bought a condo next door to my parents. Being with my family every day was bliss. Even the minor health issues I'd been having seemed to vanish. I hadn't slept well since Ava and Leo had reconnected. Now, finally free, I felt a lightness I hadn't known in years. I could eat, I could sleep. Marriage, I mused, is the tomb of love, but it's also the tomb of health. My parents had been sad about the divorce at first, but that was quickly replaced by the joy of seeing me happy every day. Seeing me so revitalized, they agreed that the divorce was the best thing that could have happened. My brother and I were talking about my failed marriage one day. I honestly never thought you and Ava would split up, he said. You two used to be inseparable. I was jealous. If only Leo had never come back, none of this would have happened. Ava's family would still be alive, and you two would still be married. I just smiled faintly and said nothing. It was true that Ava had loved me, but she loved Leo more. Otherwise, her heart wouldn't have strayed the moment he reappeared. I was just her second-best option. But thankfully, that was all in the past. We were strangers now. On the day our divorce was finalized, Ava was dressed exquisitely. As we stood in line for the divorce proceedings, someone even told her she was in the wrong line, that the marriage line was next to us. She just smiled awkwardly and said softly, "I'm here with my husband to get divorced first. Then we're getting married right after." The person stared at her, utterly confused. I thought she was just talking, but after we received the divorce certificate, she suddenly pulled out a ring and knelt before me. "Nathan, I know I was terribly wrong before, but we were husband and wife. Please, give me one more chance. This time, I swear, I will love you with all my heart. To show you I'm serious, I'm willing to transfer all of my company's shares to you." As soon as she finished speaking, a man in a suit carrying a briefcase approached. He introduced himself as the head of legal for Ava's company. He opened his briefcase and took out a stack of documents. They were the papers to transfer ownership of her company to me. All I had to do was sign. To expedite our divorce, I hadn't asked for any part of her company, only a division of our shared assets. I knew how much the company meant to her. I never imagined she would be willing to hand it over just to win me back. Once, that gesture would have moved me deeply. I would have said yes without a second thought. But now it was too late. My heart had grown cold. No amount of money could fill the void in a loveless marriage. "Ava, you know me," I said. "I don't go backward. Her straight back slumped as if her spine had been removed. I didn't soften. I turned and walked away without looking back. That was the last time I ever saw Ava in person. Over the next 6 months, I only saw her name or face online. Her company was growing at an explosive rate, its future limitless. But as her wealth grew, so did her reputation for working herself to the bone and for an increasingly volatile temper. We were moving in completely different directions. I assumed our paths would never cross again. Then, one afternoon, her company's lawyer called and asked to meet. Ava was dead. She had left her entire fortune to me, her ex-husband. Before I could even process the news, the lawyer dropped another bombshell. Leo Vance was dead, and so were his parents. It turned out that Ava had planned an ending for all of them long ago. After Leo and his parents were imprisoned, they were systematically tormented. Within 3 months, his parents couldn't take it anymore and killed themselves. The mastermind, of course, was Ava. Leo was tougher. He managed to endure the full 6 months. He was released from prison that morning. Ava was waiting for him at the gates. She ran him down with her car, then drove back and forth over his body, making sure he was dead. Then she drove straight off a bridge and into the river. I was still reeling from the shock of it all, unable to speak. The lawyer, assuming I was grieving, tried to console me. He told me Ava's mental state had been deteriorating for a long time. She had been in and out of therapy for the past 6 months. For her, he suggested, this end might have been a release. I knew he wasn't lying. On the day we finalized the divorce, I had sensed something was off about her. She had an unnatural, manic energy. Her marriage proposal had a desperate, self-destructive edge to it. At the time, I was so focused on making a clean break that I didn't think much of it. Looking back now, it was clear that her mind had started to fracture the moment her family died. My leaving was just another blow. But I don't regret my decision. If we had stayed married, I have no doubt that I would have been in that car with her at the bottom of the river. That was Ava. She may have been cold to me, but she cared deeply for her family. How could she ever live with herself, knowing she had sacrificed them for someone else? Her fate was sealed from the beginning. With or without me, it would have ended the same way. I accepted the inheritance. The company's annual profits, however, I donate to charity. The world is a broken place. Since I now have the means, why not be one of the people trying to mend it? The rest of my life was bright, just as I had hoped. End.